Hello and welcome to the Dick Briggs Show. Now, I'm, of course, a master of hentai and anything hentai related, so I'm gonna go and say my 10 things that I hate the most in hentai. These are the things I cannot stand if I see, so I hope you enjoy, and if you're at work, hopefully you don't nut your pants. Number 10. Overly vanilla hentai. Now, this one's really low because, honestly, who cares? But all of us have seen stuff like this, at least you should have. Basically, the basic story of half of these is just some bitch gets fucked, and that's kind of it. You don't have to think too hard about the plot, because there is none. Most of the time, it's either a really generic incest story, or sometimes it's simply just like the guy's best friend. It doesn't matter, because either way it's overly vanilla. Now, how can you tell if it is overly vanilla? Well, there are a couple things that you can look at. Does it have anything special? Is there really a plot? And did you feel like you got fulfilled other than beating your meat to it? Or maybe flicking the bean if you are one of those type of ladies. Number 9, we have uncensored. This is probably just me, but I don't like seeing just penises on screen. Cover that shit up. I don't need to see none of that shit. For the most part, I see why a lot of people might not be overly challenged by the entire idea of just simply uncensored hentai. However, I am. So, yeah, come at me if you like this type of shit. I don't. Sorry. At number 8, we have a very similar type of thing. Just softcore. Now, the only reason why I say this is for one really good reason. If I'm gonna go on to Hentai Haven, Fuku, any generic name out there for a hentai website, I'm going all the way. I want to see some nice titties, some nice ass, some nice pussy, a nice big anime dick. You know what I mean. So, I don't want to basically see what I would already see if I just watched Orimo 10 times in a row and beat my meat to it. Who knows, maybe you get off at that. I tend to find that a lot of softcore hentai is more plot driven, and that makes a lot of sense considering that, again, you can't just sell you on the fact that you get to see some pussy action. So I get that, and if that's the reason why, I especially like hentai with plot. No matter how messed up it is, I mean, at least it's there, and I will enjoy the plot. However, I personally would rather not have softcore, because if you're going to make a softcore story, just don't make it hentai. That simple. Number 7 is also a very preference-based type of idea. It's just overly big boobs. And you know what I mean. Anime titties. They giant. Personally, I like them on the bit of a smaller side. Not exactly lolly, although I don't mind. Yeah, try getting me, FBI. However, overly big titties, I just don't like them in general. I will still watch something that has this in it. However, for the most part, I typically attempt to avoid them, just simply because it's a personal preference of mine. Nothing against big titties, nothing against anime titties. If your waifu has them, cool, man, but your waifu's shit in my mind, so, yeah, take that. Number 6, we have bad mind control plots. Now, when thinking about this, you have one thing to say, maybe two. The first one is, wait, there are good mind control plots? And the answer is no. The second one is, that's only in rape, and that is totally true. If you watch any amount of rape hentai, you're gonna see this more than once. It's very prevalent, because it's a really easy way to make it not seem as rough, however still have that roughness in. It's kind of like a jack of all trades type of thing. The easiest way to do this, it seems like, is for the main character to be a scientist that has a perfume that just makes girls crave dicks. Nothing against that, but I find that kind of lazy and half-assed. If possible, I tend to avoid these. However, again, if you like this type of thing, that's completely fine, man. I'll just go back to jerking off at Rape, or RapeMan, my favorite superhero. Next one is something I didn't even know. I didn't even know non-speaking main characters existed. However, I found one that does have one. I don't know if this is a prevalent thing, But basically, the idea of this one is the main character doesn't speak. You only see scrolling text, and I get it. I don't pay attention. I can't speak Japanese. I can't understand Japanese, so I read the subtitles anyways. But it's so weird not having the voice and hearing it. It kind of distracts from the overall feeling. Now, I think that it's meant so that you can like picture whatever voice you want, maybe make it more realistic to your fantasies. And I can see the reason for this in, let's go say, like a POV, saying like that. But this one wasn't even like that. So, yeah. Overall, I don't like it that much, and there you go. Number 4 is Ugly Bastard. I know a lot of people who don't like this genre, and it makes sense. The main idea of this is to make the main character as unattractive as possible. You typically see these in rape, hentai, stuff like that. Typically revenge stories as well, and if not that, then again, just generic rape. No reason behind it. I don't mind it most of the time. However, yes, I do constantly avoid these simply because, hey, I don't know about you, but I'm fine with the generic no eyes hentai dude in most of mine. So, yeah. Number 3 is scat. It's a very unique taste. We'll go with that, definitely. Yeah, me personally, nah. Sorry, but Mr. Brigus doesn't like none of that scat. I don't enjoy any poo-poo on my anime, bitch. I'm sorry. This one's a no can do. If you enjoy it, that's great, man. More for you, but I'm not clicking onto most of them. I tend to avoid this the most. It isn't the most hated thing, however, I avoid this probably the second most, actually, not the most now since I think about it. So, yeah, on to the next one. Number 2 is something that you guys have all been waiting for. I bet most of you could guess what it is, that it's going to be somewhere on this, because a lot of people have a lot of issues with it, and I'm included into that. It's NTR. I always say that NTR is a hentai genre first, anime genre second. And the reason why is because I don't see it that many times. I don't see it a lot in just normal anime. I see it a lot in hentai, maybe some softcore, if anything else. NTR, if you don't know what it is, then I will explain to you. It's basically where there's a couple, however, the girl basically cucks the guy and fucks anyone else. Typically, it's a best friend of the guy. So, major cuck there. But for the most part, I mean, because of that nature, it's a hentai genre, and I've always declared it so. Of course, there's stuff, like the really big Yuri anime that has NTR in it. I can't think of the name right now, but I've watched it before. It isn't that good. If you know what I'm talking about, try avoiding it. It isn't that good. Other than that, most NTR stories aren't that good, aren't that fully developed. Most of them are one episode long. Most of them don't continue for that long, because you really can't continue it past the initial point of just being kind of, a fuck buddy to the main character, or not the main character, sorry, the female protagonists. You can't do a lot with it. And for that reason, NTR tends to have a lot of shows, but it tends to be really short shows and not very developed stories, so I don't care that much. I still hate it. I avoid it at all costs. It's a really, really stupid type of story. Number 1 is 3D. And if you don't know what I mean by 3D, it's basically anything that uses 3D rendering, such as the most common one I always see is always Blender. And the reason why, because Blender is free. I use Blender, at least I used to, when I was into a lot of 3D effects and stuff like that, working, trying to make games, stuff like that just for fun. However, You can also animate with Blender, which is one of the biggest plus sides. A lot of people who go into animation might have started with Blender because it's free. It's decently easy to use because there's tons of tutorials online. However, you always tend to see it whenever you try looking anywhere. If you're familiar with the hentai section on sites like Pornhub, let's go say, then you know what I'm talking about. You see it everywhere. Basically, it's 3D rendered girls who don't look that good fucking. And that's the base story of all of these. So really all I can say is I see what they're trying to do here and I get it. It's really easy to make probably. You know, at least easier than actual hentai. I can 3D model, I can draw hentai. Like, there you go. But even then, just leave it to the people who can draw. Become maybe a story art, a writer for, a hentai. But don't make 3D shit. I avoid it the most. I have watched a couple because I know what it is, but other than that, I avoid these at all costs. So, yeah. And that sadly wraps up our time together. So yeah, that's just a really quick beginning video for this YouTube channel. If I happen to get banned off for some reason, I'm sorry. It's the only channel you know that no matter what, I'm not going to get ads, so hey, there's that. And one other thing I do have to say, I am planning on reviewing hentai later on. My next video will be the 10 things I like in hentai, so be prepared for that video. However, please give me suggestions on what type of hentai I should watch, what type of hentai I should review, what type of hentai I should tell you guys to, of course, watch. And if you happen to do so, thank you very much. You're helping this community. So yeah, other than that, sayonara, boys. Have a good night.